Thank you very much, Pak Togar. First of all, my apology because I cannot turn on my camera. It's pitch black here because we have electricity light out. So I'm just using my mobile phone connection to get connected.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much, Eric. It was a very insightful presentation and full of very interesting data. So I have two questions actually. The first is on your second from last slide, showing all these peak times of land clearings in different regions, especially in Indonesia. I saw there for Papua, for example, there is only lighter color. So I'm not so sure if it means that there is no land clearing in forested areas, or if there is not sufficient data to be included in that slide. That is the first question. And then the second question is, since you were talking about the future demand of oil palm, and then you were saying in your slide also that the peak of land clearing for oil palm expansion is basically already behind us, then does it mean that do you foresee for future, if we are going with the scenario of still using the oil palm as the source of our daily use, does it mean that there is no additional land clearing needed, meaning that we have sufficient areas to produce necessary additional 200 metric tons oil palm for global need, or is there any different scenarios that were there but it's not included in your presentation yet, like maybe a forecast of how much land that we actually need and where will we get those land from? That is my question. Thank you very much, Pak Togar, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mona. Michelle, next.
Good afternoon. Eric, you mentioned that the studies that showed negligible to marginal to non-existent impacts due to certification. Of course, those studies took place prior to the the revised principles and criteria of the RSPO, and I think we can agree they were vastly improved to deliver on the no deforestation, no peat, no exploitation demands of the market and NGOs. So my question to you is, if a similar study were to be done today, would you expect any difference? You know, how much of a difference? And you know, how is anything planned to look at the impacts post PNC 2018?
Okay. Do I answer first, or do you want to take more questions?
Doris? Doris, you there?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Togar. Thank you, Eric, for your insightful presentation. I want to ask about the data that you are explained to us about maybe the benefit or maybe the comparison about the vegetable oils. There is how many species that can be conserved in each vegetable oil. I want to ask, can we use that data if we have some presentation to other or maybe to public? Can be that data can we use to public? And then the second about the scenario 1 and scenario 2. In scenario 1, you don't use the improvement of the product, improvement of the yields. And the second scenario, you use the improvement of production as a variable. It means in the scenario one, you make the assumption about the improvement of the yields are zero or what?
Mhm.
I need your explanation about the scenario. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doris. Yeah, go ahead, Eric. The next will be another lady, Wahida. You are after this. Eric is answering. Thank you.
Okay. Let me just share my screen. Oh, sorry, not leave meeting. Oops, and I was nearly gone.
Don't leave.
Oh shit. Because I think there was a bit of a misunderstanding. I don't know whether David is here because he might be able to better explain it. You were asking about this map here of Papua. As you see, you said this is all light color. No, it's actually nearly all dark color. So most of the expansion in Papua happens in forest area. Only a small percentage in non-forest area. But these are David Gavo's figures, unpublished. So it might be better for you to directly communicate with him on this figure, as well as the figure for the smallholder oil palm expansion, which is similar but different in details.
Okay.
No, there is expansion in Papua, most of it in existing forest areas. Then Mona asked about the
Scenario.
future.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the future scenarios for land future demand, given that the peak of expansion is kind of behind us, certainly in Indonesia, maybe not in other parts of the world, maybe not in Africa, maybe not in South America. But can the future demand be met on existing land holdings? I'm not a yield expert. Certainly, I've seen a lot of poorly performing palm oil, oil palm, especially in the smallholder sectors. I guess everyone traveling through Sumatra and Kalimantan knows the view of poorly maintained plantings, trees without fruit. So I think there's massive scope of increasing yield on existing lands. And I hope one of the things that the Indonesian government and Malaysian government will try to do now that expansion is kind of slowing down, to really look at the existing land holdings and to see how productivity can be increased on the land that's already been allocated to oil palm, rather than opening up new lands. I don't have the figures to what extent future demand can be met only by increasing yields. Because yield is a very difficult area. Of course, theoretical yields are estimated as much as 18 tons of fresh fruit bunch per hectare, whereas on average it's 4 now. But whether that theoretical yield can be achieved in reality, given the constraints of financing capacity, capacity building within the sector, and so on, is a different question. So the theoretical yields can be much higher. Whether they can be achieved in practice is a different thing. Question from Michelle about these marginal positive impacts from RSPO. We've got a study coming out that so we've had several studies on the impact of RSPO certification on deforestation or reducing deforestation, and reducing the occurrence of fires, where there was indeed a small benefit. We've got a recent publication looking at the socioeconomic impacts in Indonesia of RSPO certification. Again, it was a small benefit. The idea would, of course, be that I think the principles and criteria of RSPO are solid. think a lot of the thinking that's gone within in these principles and criteria is good. The implementation of those principles and criteria, of course, people are still struggling with, and some are doing a lot better in implementing them than others. I think over the years, this should all improve. I would expect there to be an increased positive benefit from RSPO certification, but it depends a bit, because if RSPO certified concessions were established on deforested land, you're not going to have much of an impact on biodiversity, because there was no biodiversity available even before certification took place. So it's a little tricky, but I believe in the principles and ideas behind RSPO certification. I see room for improvement in its implementation, but to me that doesn't invalidate RSPO as such. So I would hope to see it improved in the future. The data about comparing the different vegetable oils, Doris, I think you were referring to this table. Yeah. All this is published information. The table is actually in a paper that we have in review at the moment. I hope it to be accepted within the next month or so, although that's always a bit of a guess with journals, you never know. If it's accepted, then it should be online very soon, and then you can refer to my paper. But all these data, so the last three are from the IUCN. So the IUCN, as I said earlier, they assess species, or IUCN's experts assess species, and those experts will say that this species is threatened by coconut, or this species is threatened by olive, or this species is threatened by oil palm. So all that data is available in the red list. The information on species richness and range size rarity is available. Oil yields are available from a number of publications. If you want to refer to this table, I'm afraid you need to wait a little bit until I've got this published, and then you can refer to that paper.
Okay.
And then your second question about the scenarios, very right. The first has yield improvements included, the second doesn't. I actually had a scenario 3 and 4 where I had scenario 1 combined with yield improvement. So there's different things that that you can model. What I really wanted to say with this slide is that choosing the right allocation of land to different crops can have huge impacts on the total area in the world that needs to be allocated to vegetable oil production. So it is not a simple discussion. If people say let's ban palm oil, as I always say, saying no to palm oil means saying yes to another oil, unless people stop using oil. But oil is oil and fats are part of our diet. We need them to function. People would die without oil and fats. So there is going to be a demand. The biofuel discussion is different. I mean, people can say that growing oil for biofuel is wrong. Okay, you can have your opinion, but ultimately there will be a demand for oils and fats from the future human population on this planet. And meeting oil and fat through animals is a lot worse than meeting them through plants. So I assume there's going to be a growth in vegetable oil production, and then it becomes really important whether we choose for an additional 3 million hectares or an additional 300 million hectares at the time when land is already squeezed on all sides, especially for biodiversity. So this to me, and I wouldn't write those numbers down, these are very rough estimates, but it's about the order of magnitude of the impacts that we're talking about between the different choices for different oil crops. And that really to me is the key of this discussion.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, it's clear enough. Next batch, Wahida and Olivier, and anybody else want to ask? Pak Agam, if you want to have the third person on this second batch.
Ya, Pak. Ya, Pak Togar.
Yeah, Wahida first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Pak Togar.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone from Brussels. Eric, my name is Wahida. I'm the agriculture attaché. I don't know whether we had a chance ever meeting in palm oil meeting in Brussels. Seems not, but it's very nice, to hear your presentation. Actually, in your last slide, I think you just presented about. It really worries me the words that the science confirms palm oil is unsustainable even if certified. Maybe then, as you may know, at the moment, we are facing the EU at the moment will be table the EU communication towards EU action to protect and restore the world forest, which is with this kind of communication, then the EU provide what they call define as the forest-based risk commodities, which is the palm oil and soy will be included. What worries me, actually, as you may know, the Indonesian government lost so much effort, including the private sector, towards the sustainable palm oil. With this comment, with this perception that according to science, none of the certified sustainable is certified, right? Unsustainable, although it is certified sustainable. How you perceive this in the future? Because at the moment with this EU communication, not only this one, with other EU regulation, related the European Green Deal, which is they would like to tackling the climate, etc. We find difficulties to find how the EU will be measure everything about this. One concept that they would like introduce in the communication is they would like to make like a flexi license alike for another for the commodities that including as the forest-based risk commodities. But if the science confirm that even the certified product is unsustainable, how the producing country like us moving forward? How we tackling this condition? Because I believe for Indonesia, the EU is still the important market for our palm oil compared to other vegetable oil. I need your highlight on this matter, Eric. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bu Ida. Olivia, please.